Okay, let's jump into it. Where are we at? 20 past 10. So yeah, just that little bit of a lull just before we get that sort of volume in. Generally around 11 o'clock seems to be sort of coming in. Certainly with the metals, we see things moving around that time. Look, I'll just start off with Aussie. A little bit of a recap of the play from yesterday because this inverted head and shoulders is what we were calling. As you can see, measured move, bang, right up to the top end here. Clipped this, took it out, and then absolutely just melted down through the rest of the session and that. And yeah, it was quite interesting actually because obviously, look, we had ECB coming out last night, and so just one sec. So to make sure the headphones are working properly. Yeah, we had ECB coming out last night, and that was the big sort of anticipation for the market, and obviously, sort of like indirectly, sort of affecting sort of things like Aussie and that. But you know what I mean? It's through bit by bit. Euro affects DXY, DXY broad sense of US dollar against the rest of the market, that against risk, and that's how we sort of wind up with how it'll affect Aussie. So we did see sort of DXY sort of come back down onto its sort of main supports early yesterday, just from the get-go, and this is what gave us this nice little breakout move to the top side here. But as soon as DXY sort of rallied right up to close that gap, which is what we called, you just saw Aussie meltdown, 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 meltdown. Gave a little bit of an effort and then kept going down, 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 down. And around this area over here is where we had Lagarde or whatever her name is from the ECB sort of talking. So look, it was pretty much expectation, like it has been for a while, that the ECB would cut prior to the Fed. Um, so it wasn't really any sort of shocker when they did cut. So now this week alone, we've seen BOC cut. Now we've seen ECB cut. So it seems to be that these larger sort of central banks are starting to move into that sort of that turn of the cycle, which again, sort of like, you've got the Fed who are sort of holding off a little bit, but RBA are definitely at the moment not in any sort of cutting mode. We're talking about, I mean, you can't really take the RBA for too much in that because they've got a pretty poor track record. But, they are at this point, and this is the thing, it doesn't matter whether this happens or not, it's what they're talking about, and that's what will drive the market. They're talking about no cuts till end of 2025. So, where we at now in June, so 18 months, 12 months, 15 months at least, um, till they potentially cut. That's going to hold Aussie up a little bit. I mean, the idea that you've got sort of, I mean, the main one for against the Aussie is the US, of course, and the Fed. If they sort of start to cut and RBA's holding, well, you're going to see Aussie strengthen up a little bit more. So, look, that's just a sort of a little bit of thought sort of moving forward with the Aussie. We've got NFP tonight. That's the big one in focus at the moment. I don't know what this trend line is. Yeah, this wasn't really anything. Kind of chop through this. It's obsolete. We can get rid of this one. Yeah, so RBA, so the NFP tonight. That's the big one that we're sort of looking to really sort of show where the market's moving. Look, DXY is on its strong supports, but it's held it a number of times. We'll see a little bit of a gap up this morning, which I'll get to in a moment. But as you can see, mainly the market has just, I mean, look at Aussie. It's just like, I mean, it is just ranging sideways. This is going back after we had that push off the lows. But coming up, say this is the bottom of this range around that, say 66 level, 66 to 67, a couple of points here and there and change. It is really just oscillating between the two. It is hanging around in the top half of what would be this range here, as you can see 3 times, 4 times recently. It's come down here. Buyers have picked it up. Buyers have picked it up. Came right down into this little zone that we had marked out. I can't actually remember why I put this one down here, but maybe some sort of little target here. But you can see buyers have been here, buyers have been here, buyers have been here. Put it down in here, there's a high chance that, market's going to buy back up. And, if it's in a range and you can kind of see the two halves of the range, wherever it's sort of spending a bit more time in is obviously a little bit more of an idea that it may sort of tend to break that direction. We were a positive lead into this range as well. Again, another thing that sort of doesn't guarantee, I mean, nothing guarantees anything, but it gives you the idea that it skews the percentage chance that it may break in that direction. So we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens with NFP. I'll just have a quick look over what numbers we're expecting. So previously of 175, so it's actually tipped to go up 186. So we'll have to see how this one sort of comes in. But yeah, I mean, so obviously the higher the better for the in terms of the USD strength. So if it does come, excuse me, if it does come in underneath, that's going to be a bit of a shock, as in like the market's price, in theory, pricing for, even if it is a marginal gain, a bit of a gain for the US dollar, sorry, for the numbers. So if that doesn't come to fruition, you're going to see the market revert those positions that were, you know, the positions that were taken based on the idea that you're going to have a stronger US dollar based off this part of the news, if that makes sense. So they're going to sort of undo their positions very quickly. We'll see DXY sort of sell off. Alternatively, look, I start to query a lot of these sort of Fed numbers because the revisions are generally quite drastic. I mean, if we go back, we've had a couple of these ones where the revisions have been, you know, back in February, 353,000. The next month revised to 229,000. I mean, that's 120 odd thousand uh, jobs sort of off. Like that's a pretty big disparity. You know, the month before that was 216, and then that was revised up to 333,000. So, you know, these are questionable kind of numbers. So I'll drag this one across. These are the numbers that I'm looking at here. And this is just like, as I said, look, you know, this will show, you know, what the actual number was. And then the next month, you've got previous month, and these little arrows are the revised numbers. So it did come in printed as 216. Next month, when we had this number printing out, they revised the previous one to 333. So these two numbers should, in theory, match up. I mean, these ones are a little bit closer, 275 and 270, 303, 315. But you know what I mean? There are some times here, 100,000 under, 100,000 over. You know, it's a bit shifty, but again, all you can do is trade off what the numbers and what the data they give you is. Whether you believe it or not, that is what the numbers that the market is going to move off. So if you get a high number at the front, that's what they're going to that's what they're going to react to. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of looking at. I mean, Aussie is poised for a bit of a break, but it has sort of stalled around this area here. DXY at the same time stalling on its main supports. So a break at the main supports on DXY will open it up for a main break of Aussie to the top side. So if we do get a break at the top side, these are the levels that we really want to beat. Really, through here is you know, most recent highs, but I would probably go as far as to sort of say that one would be a little bit obsolete. So I'm going to drag this over to here. These are the levels that I'm looking to beat. These two here. As pretty much back here as well, you can see. But yeah, above sort of, you know, low 67, so 67 ones, and then these highs over here, if we drag way back to the start of the year, I'll put it onto a higher time frame so we can get a better look. This was the top end of the range of this little sort of congestion period that we had for like, you know, I mean, I think it was a couple of days, 12 days or something like this through this period here. Yeah, 12 days, give or take, you know. So yes, if we can get above our most recent levels, these, you know, sort of 67 is a round number, but these highs over here, I think would be the ones to look for. If we can get above these highs at 67, then the tackle is on at 67.30 to 40. Above that, where we put our alarm there, put our alert, that's going to be a major breakout. So this is going to be major if we get this one. And with a major breakout, it means that, you know, we've got sort of probably a little bit of surety that you're going to have a nice little chunk of stops up here. And that means that you could probably sort of look to hold this one and see this kind of move forward. Sometimes you do get these spike up and they'll come back quickly, but when you're breaking major levels, which we saw with, I'll actually show an example in a second, we saw with silver a couple of weeks back, which was at this level here. This was the major break on silver. And this one here was like, you know, levels where we'd had sort of previous wick highs just above, most recent highs were just there. And this is an example of when you're breaking major levels, and you can see the reaction here. It went up and up and up and up and up. This one, I have to admit, I was quite heavily positioned here. I actually recorded that trade. I don't generally record my trades a lot, but I recorded that trade, and it went bang, 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 bang. And because I had such a heavy position, I was out like around here or something like this. And it just kept going and going and going and going. Like, as I said, my style is I get in and out, in and out, in and out. But certainly this is the kind of thing, positioned here, get the break. Well, this is, and this actual move up here, give or take a bit, is a 10% move without really a full retracement. Like, yes, you've got sell down here, sell down here. This is on a 4-hour chart, but these are the ones that you've got to look to sort of hold. So point being is when you get to these major levels where they've sort of been built up and suppressed for quite some time, there's a good chance that we're going to have a fair bit of stops around here. Because again, going back here, this is sort of where we saw it start of the year in January after that massive run up. They held it here. Like, I traded this pit here, and I was looking for that second high to come through here, and it didn't come, and I got absolutely annihilated through this area here. Worst losses probably in my life. But that's then. This is now. So let's have a look at this. So we're sort of saying that, okay, yes, a weak number on NFP. That seems to be the thing that people are waiting for. We do as well have FOMC the next week. So that could also be something that keeps levels a little bit subdued in that. Depending on how drastic this number is on NFP, if it's a super weak number, I think that's going to be enough to break things today. If it comes in about even, I would say, you may get a bit of a movement like that, but I don't see any sort of major breakup or a major breakdown on a fairly flat number. If you get a high number, then I expect you'll sort of probably come back into this kind of lower part of the range for Aussie. So this is where sort of, these 66 round numbers, they're defended at a number of times. They've obviously moved their buys from this level up to over here, as you can see. But if they get a good enough sort of US dollar strengthening headline with a strong NFP number, then I think that you'd be questionable to see if they could hold this area here, and I would be looking around 66 for another sort of baseline of where support may be. It's been a while since been back down here in this sort of context of things. So I would say buyers would be prepared to take it another again. When you get these things that happen close time again with lower highs, kind of like this area through here, this is what you could kind of expect almost to see a breakthrough when they've tried it, and each time the sellers are coming in a little bit lower, putting more pressure on it. Eventually they'll give up and they'll just come down over here. So I'll just put these down here. If we break this level through here, through say 66.30s, looking down to 66, and then I'd imagine a bit of a bounce. I'm not going to put a rocket up here, but I would say you'd probably get a bounce, and you probably start to play this lower half of this range, close the week out, and then sort of look at how things sort of line up for next week with FOMC. All right, so move on. So speaking of DXY, as we can see here, it is really sort of flirting with this major support area. We've been watching this one for a while. As you can see, going back here, you can see how many times this has sort of been respected. And I mean, there's arrows all over the place, so it gets a bit choppy, but the more recent times you can see here, supported. This is back there. April CPIs flew off from this level. Oh, I don't know what's going on with that alert. And obviously, as we sort of come back down into it, held it a few times. Tried to break out of this little channel, done it, sort of held a bit of a back test, came up again, sold into again. So this is the thing, sort of we saw the news yesterday. Well, actually, I'll start off 2 days ago. We had, I think it was ISM data, and we saw DXY really run up to the highs here, bang, smack down. So strong US data, market sold into it. We had yesterday, I don't think we had any data for the US that was driving it yesterday. There was unemployment claims and that, but that was obviously earlier. So yeah, we had euro. So yeah, no, it's pretty light on sort of yeah, we had ISM. That was what I was just talking about. So where are we at? This one here, we didn't really have any sort of US data to sort of move it. It was more just sort of like closing this gap, and I think this was sort of like people selling the euro off mainly um, in anticipation for ECB cut. So obviously, if they're going to cut the rates, it's going to be weaker for the currency. So this is the market positioning for that. It came out, and then of course they had the press conference afterwards. And the press conference, that's the first time I've actually listened to her. She sounds like she has absolutely zero idea about what the hell's going on and dodges questions and just laughs like kind of inanely. Like, yeah, she seems very yeah, crazy. And I'm surprised that sort of people bother sort of listening to what she's got to say. Like she's obviously reading off a teleprompter, and then when it's actual question time, she adds absolute zero content to anything. It's remarkable, actually. But the underlying message that came out from the press conference was one that it was, although they did cut, they upgraded their inflation forecasts. So they think that inflation's going to stay a little bit higher. So it's kind of a little bit contradictory to the idea of cutting, because cutting is in theory going to help avoid recession because companies can borrow money and they can stimulate growth. Um, but at the same time, that then feeds inflation. So this is what I've been saying mainly in regards to the Fed is that that's the balancing act that they're sort of trying to work out at the moment is are they going to try and starve off uh, recession, or are they going to fight the inflation? What's the lead sort of issue for them? And I'm in the camp that sort of like inflation's taken a back seat or a back foot, and that avoiding recession is the number one thing. You've got the elections coming up this year as well. I don't think any of the sort of people, well, Biden doesn't want to sort of go into an election with the economy in a recession. I mean, how much is that going to sort of lead to sort of like, negative publicity, press, whatever? You know what I mean? Like if the economy's in a recession, that's going to be brought up time and time again. Oh, it's a failed political party. They've pushed us into recession. Vote for us, well, the other people like Trump and that, because you know what, we will make sure that there isn't a recession. You know what I mean? So I think there's a high chance that that's going to be the way that they push things, and that's going to be why they try and sort of fight off the idea of recession. And the fighting off the idea of the recession is cutting the rates. Cutting the rates, the companies borrow money, they stimulate growth. I mean, America's still getting mostly surprisingly strong data. But when you watch a lot of the stuff of actual people, boots on the ground, it doesn't seem like people are super confident, despite what their sort of their confidence reports say. So it's a little bit tinfoil hat there, but that's just my sort of take on it at the moment. So anyway, that's the sort of background of it all. We saw that even though the ECB cut, it was considered as quite a sort of hawkish cut, and this is why we saw euro sort of strengthen up a little bit afterwards, which then obviously pushed DXY down, as you can see here. This was around the area that it came out, and then we had the jobs data, which was where we at? This was the unemployment claims came in higher. So obviously you want sort of more people in jobs. So unemployment claims went up and also above expectation. That added to the sort of sell down. And then we had the press conference coming through here. So, and it was pretty sort of quiet for news through the rest of the night there. But yeah, certainly, yeah, look, it's obviously just ranging through here at the moment. But my takeaway is the fact that even when you've got strong US data, market sells into it. There was a weak sort of euro sort of part there, market sold into it. So yeah, I think this is certainly the line that we're looking for underneath 104. I think a lot of things are going to break if we get down under here. We're going to see metals rip up a little bit more. We're going to see Aussie kick through that breakout area as well. All right, so moving along, we got gold. So gold really kicking back into gear here, which is great to see. Obviously, this little action here A little bit sort of went whoop, one more sort of push back down here. But the point is still the same. We are moving up. We came through a little bit of this sort of falling resistance. Now, this falling resistance hasn't really been respected a great deal since we were back up above 2400, which feels like a while ago, but it's only a couple of weeks, I suppose. But we never got the retest of this area here. And when you compare the two, silver and gold, silver undid that move. Gold got to 38% or something like this, and there's obviously now sort of gearing up a little bit more. Have a look on the other gold chart here. And we're sort of seeing that, it's slowly going through these areas. This is where we were talking about it yesterday with the video. We said, look, we had this little triangle setting up. We said 11 o'clock volume, watch out, bang, right through the top here. Great trade. Rest of the day, stunk. Came all the way back down here. I actually sort of got out, I didn't get the top of these, but I got out sort of like, moving up through this area here. Then I sort of got back in a little bit early down here, and then sort of charged back through here. So it actually all worked out quite well in the end. Look, we are sort of gearing up. We're respecting these levels that we marked out. You know what I mean? We chopped through this first level, hit this level, and this is what I was saying. Well, I've been saying sort of like, moving up through here, and this is why we've got so many little levels through here. It wasn't a straight meltdown. I mean, if you put it on the 4 hour, it probably looks more like a straight meltdown down here. But even this, you can see little levels, little areas of exchanges. So these are going to offer little signals for where we can look for on our way back up. And as you can see, this level here that we got marked out, there's no determining which one it's necessarily going to respect, though. That's the thing. Maybe if you look at different time frames, you can pick it up a little bit more. But we can see that this has been an area, this has been an area. And where did it come back? It came back to here. So you know what I mean? There's no sort of guarantee, because you could have sort of thought, look, this is a resistance area here. Well, it chopped through this and it chopped through here. There's no reason necessarily why, excuse me, it would have just sort of flown through these areas. But, I think once you sort of go through it quite quickly, you can expect it to almost sort of come back through it quite quickly. So that's sort of disregards those kind of levels a little bit. So moving forward with gold, certainly, look, it's coming back into it. This is the sort of little range that I was calling, and obviously this is back a little bit now. We had the price target up around 24. It is slowly grinding up towards that, but, I haven't really taken into account sort of super amounts of the fact that we blew out the lows here. There was a little, like in hindsight, well, it's not even in hindsight because I called it and did it in the videos as we were doing it, but, in review, I guess now, you can see that, it was taking out the lows, took out the lows, took out the lows, took out the lows. This last low here, and I sort of called this as it was happening, well, just after, was that it actually came in very marginally, and this is, as you can see, you've got to zoom right in on this. We got 14.8 for this low here, came in at 15.5, so less than a buck. But is that something telling to say that, buyers kind of stepped in a little bit quicker? Not quite sure. But look, it is something that, you can look at afterwards and go, okay, maybe that was a little signal for it. But certainly the big close here, if we put it back on the 4 hour, this is the difference with the break to the top side. So for me, the way that I see this is, you got people trying to buy it long. Let's take out their technical stops. Oh, back in. Let's take out their technical stops. This time, obviously, still did come down here. But if you look at these sort of closes, yes, you got this little 4 hour close here and the reaction that came back afterwards. Look at the sort of close on this side here. Second candle wasn't sort of something big. Third candle was quite small. And then bang, we're back out the top side here again. So there's a different price structure here than you did see down the bottom side here. Bottom side was firing back into it each time. Buyers were scooping it up and kept going with it. On this side, we're seeing sort of like, a retest, backside of here, where we could say that we've seen the sellers, and, obviously an exchange there, bang, and it's moved up through here. So, up above us at the moment, 82 is looking like a level, 92, and then up around 2400. 2400 is going to be a tough one to crack, I'd say. You got big round number. It's a psychological thing. You've also got this supposed, well, not even supposed, but this sort of price target here. If people were trading this particular range, and this would be your measured move price target, but you've also got the 61% up here. So that's a couple of things that all sort of say that, hey, look, you know what, it may be a little bit of a cap on it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. As I said, it never got the retest of this level under here. So above 24, you got 24.10. That is going to be tough. This actually will be a lot harder. Like all these ones here are well, these ones are kind of levels, yes. But the price target here, that's a measured move. Not everybody in the market is trading that. So, it's not necessarily going to be a cap. It's just a target where you can sort of take some profit. Some people will be, so you expect a reaction from there. Same with the 61%. Up on these levels, though, the difference here is that we've seen buyers try to hold it, buyers try to hold it, buyers try to hold it, and if you watch anything of what I do, you know that the sellers are going to be here. It's not even just people that is trying to take their sort of that as their price target. It's going to be people that sort of held through this area here, have a chance to sort of get out for even. I mean, they were $100 in drawdown. $80 if they were in on the supports. You know what I mean? If they could get a chance to get out, do you think they're going to take it? Well, of course they will. They'll sort of go like, yep, sweet, I've got a chance to exit. I don't have to sort of take the big loss. I've held this drawdown, get out, reset, bang, let's go. So, that's going to be a tough thing to think. So I think even if we do get up to this level over here, I think we're going to see some pushback. You know what I mean? As to how far, well, we could see this is a little bit of a level through here. So this would be probably another little base point. I mean, that's only $9, $10 push back, but then you potentially look to go above that. Any sort of stops are up here, then we move up here. And above 24.10, things get interesting because you've got a whole bunch of these areas or zones through here where, above these highs here, stops. Yeah. Yeah, so we can see it. Anyway, we'll work on this one. You're going to have stops above these highs. You're going to have stops above these highs. And of course, you're going to have stops above these guys. So you can see that this was like a little bit of a falling, descending triangle, which bang gave way through here. So, you're going to have sort of people that sort of like, put their stops above this high here, put their stops above this high here, depending where they got in, all these kind of things. I mean, they may have already popped their stops and sort of like, you sort of think if you're short here, you may have sort of just gone, look, you know what, I'm going to move my stops down to here. So I think above 24.10, we're going to see things get a little bit interesting because I think these are the kind of areas that we're going to be looking to feed any potential breaks. And again, like I showed with silver, if you can charge up through these areas, you've got stops to maybe get you up to hit these stops, maybe to get you up to hit these stops, maybe to get you up to hit these to really blow out the top side here. You got to think the same with this move here. We got so many people that are shorting, and now they've sort of put their stops over here. We're going to use each one of those levels to feed us to get up to the top side. So anyway, that's just how I'm sort of looking at gold. I think we do have potential to sort of move back up to the 2400. I'm going to be a little bit sort of cautious about and really paying attention to how the price action reacts around this, high 2390s to 2400. And then I'll be looking for a little base pullback here. And if we go through that second time, I think that's the time to really look to sort of to jump on with some weight because I think that's where we're going to see a little bit of a punch up. And I think we've got a chance to hit stops and really come back up and test those all-time highs. One thing as well, you've got to be sort of cautious of, although it's a little bit choppy, up around this 2400 level, and this is another thing as well, if we select this one, drag this through here, if we look at this area over here, and this is one thing I was pointing out to a mate as well, and this is, you got to kind of work with this one a little bit here, but potentially this could work out to be this. This could be a bit of a head and shoulder. We don't have a super defined neckline, which I suppose works in favor of this. I mean, if we look at this is your support coming up through here. So it's a bit more, I would say, well, this is a failed breakout, but you're almost a bit of a triangle coming through these areas here, so which could give you deep pullbacks. I mean, again, if we have some strong US dollar stuff, you could see something come all the way down, back down over here. I don't think this will happen, but this is potential for something, for a little bit of a triangle. We have a potential for a head and shoulders. So we have a few. Gotta load up. Put this one here. Not quite sure that one. Where was that one? Well, I'll have to look back and find out where I had that one beforehand. But point being is that we're coming up into this area. I think the fact that we broke out of this little pullback area, as you can see, pullback area here, charged through, pullback area here, charged through. The idea is that, yes, I think we can move up towards 2400. I think this is a fairly clear move area. As you can see, we chopped right up it, we chopped right down it. I think this is going to be a big area though. Back above 2400, I think if you're short, you've got to be kind of a little bit worried. But I certainly think if we can sort of get up along there, we're going to be stop hunting for moves up to 2450s. It's not guaranteed that we're going to get a new all-time high. If DXY breaks down, that could be the fuel for it. But I think in the here and now, 2400 is on the cards. Okay, let's flip across. Have a look at some other metals. We've got copper. Copper's one of the great sort of trades here at the moment. Like we've got this little wedge that we've been looking at. I've got to clean up a few of these charts maybe, but whatever. This is pretty good. Just measuring this. It's probably one of my biggest point move things. I've got around sort of 1200 points on this at the moment. So this is the wedge that we've been playing. And the idea was that, we have the pullback down here. We had the big major buy area down here. If we got down to this main trend, would have loved to have loaded a few more. I got in around, I think 455 or so around here. So pretty good little entry there. But we have seen a break of this wedge. And despite sort of all my drawings all over this, you can see this rounded bottom area is what we had been playing. This idea to sort of chop and change around through here a little bit, and then to sort of eventually get this big third leg. This is what we're really looking for. This move back up to retest the highs. It's not going to be easy. Like it's going to be sort of probably fairly similar to this in the sense that it chopped around these areas. It's probably going to chop around these areas a little bit as well. But we have got this wedge break that seems to be broken, backtest confirmed. Now we just need to get above this zone here, and this is where we've got the the idea. We've got the zone where we've seen that market sold it down here. Now they've got another chance to sell it down here. Are they going to do it, or are they going to let it go through? This is from an old line, but this is where your stops would be for this as well. People that are shorting. Well, you've got above the most previous high. This is the swing high. They're going to have their stops there. You get above that, you got a nice little feed moving up through this area here. Maybe a little bit of a zone through these previous lows over here, but more or less it chopped down through here. So above sort of 470, I'd be looking 485 for the next kind of move up over there. So we can see on the way up, market sold it down at this level. And this is the thing, you just look for where has the market priced it previously. They priced it here, they let it through here, but then they did a little back test second time through, and that was its breakout zone to go up here. So this is an area where I'd like to sort of see market really step up, and I want to see the buyers really push it and pump up through here. Hard to sort of say with the NFP coming up tonight. We got 5 to 11 now, so as we saw yesterday, 11 o'clock was the hour where we got the volume in. So we're going to see if is it going to happen again. Like I probably guarantee that we are going to get the volume in. As to whether it's going to be strong buying or, if maybe they're going to sort of, expect that the market's going to be seeing this buying and so they're going to sell into that, keep it in kind of little tight ranges. I would say probably almost, without being too skeptical, I would say probably almost the latter there. Like, you got NFP coming up tonight. Generally before big bits of data, the market's fairly subdued. So I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of this. We could almost sort of see a little bit of an inverted head and shoulders coming through with this area here as well. So yeah, for copper in the short term, above 47, let's put an alert on that line. I look for what would we say, 485. which is a fair breakup if we can get this 485. Obviously not going to happen straight away, but there's a fair target in that to go up to before we sort of see the next sort of like real sort of resistance levels. Beautiful. All right, and finally finish off with a bit of China. I mean, again, well, what can you say? China just grinding, just in its range, just doing what it does. If we see a break of this zone again to the downside, I would say that, you know, this was really just a short squeeze. This move, it's a bit of an odd move though, this thing here, because you can see how sharply it came down. And then the fact that it came up, I mean, it gave up a second lot here, but this move through here, and this is what I was saying as it was happening, it was just grinding. And these kind of moves like this, where it's generally small increments, but all in one direction, like yes, you got little pullbacks here, but you can tell that that's generally, like there's no big mammoth candles. It's just little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. This is a short, for me, this is what I expect to see in a short squeeze, because it's going up and people are, you know, they saw this big sell down here. People are just trying to catch the top, trying to catch the top, trying to catch the top of all these little bounces, and it's just squeezing them all right out. And this is why we got our price target up over the top over here into that level, bang, sold down, boom. So yeah, again, look, it's just in this little part of the range, very similar to we saw pretty much all the way through March to May, sort of, you know, through that sort of little zone there. So again, look, top side's always a possibility. I would say if you see US dollar broadly sell off though, and we see metals run, we see copper punch up a little bit more, this is going to be the same thing. You're going to, at the same time, you're going to see China, one, sort of break to the downside. Well, you know, strengthen up one, which is obviously just in this chart. That means downside move. All right, cool. So 2 minutes till we got that 11 o'clock sort of kick on happening. So we'll see how we go. I don't think we've got much news sort of throughout the day. Yeah, look, we've got nothing really of note here. No, it's all pretty flat. NFP's in focus. That's at 10:30. Expectation is up a little bit. Unemployment rate to stay the same. And we'll sort of see how the rest of the week plays out. Okay, that's it from me.